All right, excellent. And we're live.
Here we are. Well, we have had a couple of months go by. We had to cancel last month due to ice storm related outages. So I'm glad that we're back. I don't believe that well, first of all, we all know each other, but do we want to do a round of introductions? I'm Mike. Tricarico?
Tricarico, they, them pronouns. Byron.
I'm Byron, he, him pronouns, and Ward 5.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, our words. That's great.
Byron's so much better at this than us.
Well, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I only like pretty recently learned what ward I actually lived in.
Okay.
And so it's I gotta make it for time.
I use it for something. That knowledge is priceless. And of course, Gretchen.
Hi, everybody. Gretchen Bennett, staff to the commission.
Well, we really only have one. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the minutes?
No, I did not. Let me look.
Well, I will make a motion to approve.
I can second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Well, we only have really one topic tonight, which is further work on our safe spaces project. The minutes from last time have some of the notes of what we talked about around the complaints process, and I think we just kind of need to decide what exactly we want to write. And then secondarily, our guest from last time, Marilyn, provided some content for us to look at from the age-friendly business program that I believe is that run out of Center 50 Plus, which seemed like a really good kind of comparison for our program of how it's been done in this community before. I noticed that with the age-friendly, there was a cost. And I imagine that cost is mostly for the training that comes with it. But I wasn't sure. You know, Gretchen?
I don't. I'm sorry. I can check though.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, because I guess just for record keeping purposes, the fees are range between $250 for over 10 employees, all the way down to $75 for a single owner, with an annual renewal of $50 a year.
Yeah.
I also see there's something that says request fee waiver. So it looks like if a business really couldn't swing that amount, there's a process in place to accommodate that.
One reason that I kind of, when I saw that in the PowerPoint, it kind of drew me in was that for a business participating, if they're putting some of their own money into the program, I think that reflects that a little bit of, I don't like that term. I thought of a sports term, but that's the wrong term. It just reflects commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, commitment to the program, as well as it could be helpful in providing funding for that training, so that if we wanted to bring in a specific trainer to do that with the business, that would be the mechanism for funding it. And basing it on the number of employees makes sense, because if you have more employees, that's more people to train.
Yeah, and we could, when we make our request to mayor for budget, we could include budget for this program so that we can have, scholarships or subsidies available, or even like a matching thing of like, hey, if you pay $100, we have $100 of budget to put towards the training and the stuff too. Because I do agree it would be nice to have people pay into it, but I also wouldn't want that to be a reason for someone not to participate.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It allows for the very smallest businesses to say, yes, we'd like to participate. And then I think the process of requesting the waiver is another sign of commitment.
Exactly.
So paying into it is commitment, but also requesting the waiver is commitment.
Yeah.
I also noticed that as part of their program, they publicize the participants in, says Kaiser Times and social media, but I liked that idea as well, on a more regular kind of basis to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially do like a profile of each business and share it on social media. Like, hey, this is a business that enrolled in our program. And then, that is another investment for them of advertising. So the fee that they're paying is going towards being advertised on the city website, which is quite an endorsement.
Yeah.
I can check with the communications team on that idea. How does that sound?
Yeah.
See what their input is? Okay.
Yeah, please. Because I wouldn't want to monopolize our social media, but we could do that maybe once a month or once a quarter.
Yeah. No, I like the idea. I just want to double check if there's anything they'd say as we're thinking about it. Yeah.
And if we can't do a specific business, I wonder if we can just talk about the program and then have a list of businesses that are participating.
Mm-hmm.
If that's like too much of an endorsement, because I know that could get sticky sometimes.
Mm-hmm. They seemed like they had a committee. Maybe in our case, it's this team that's the committee.
Yeah, and we could certainly open it up if there's any other commissioners who want to work on this project specifically. They could do kind of like Danielle does, if they're not official members, but they pop in when they're talking about this stuff.
So I kind of popped over to the concept doc, and the area that we were needing to fill in still was how complaints will be addressed. And I'm toggling between that and the minutes, because I think in the minutes we kind of talked about it, which was one, that it's kind of a multi-step process. One, if there's a clear violation of Chapter 97, that might be an automatic, toss out of the program. Otherwise, issues and questions could be taken to HRC, and HRC can evaluate, I guess, based on their responsiveness to the complaint. And then in our last meeting, we also talked about it being a renewable certificate, which is similar to how the age one works as well. So I think we all really liked that idea. If I'm remembering correctly, it was a while ago.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So on how the issues would be brought before the commission, I'm picturing, just to see if this matches your understanding, let's say in a month, I get 2 inquiries from the community or 2 complaints from the community, and in one case, a person reports a situation and I talk with the company and the company immediately like corrects, apologizes, takes corrective action, and appears very responsive, and the complainant feels very heard and supported. And I update the commission that I'd gotten this complaint and that this was the response from the company. And then maybe in another situation, I get a complaint and the company is non-responsive. Maybe they don't return a couple of phone calls. And then when I do talk with them, they might say, that they disagree or they aren't supportive or whatever it is. And then maybe I bring that forward and then we have just discussion about how to respond and how to handle. So I imagine I would just basically be bringing the experiences in and we'd figure it out.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
I think we also really liked the idea of the certificate being renewable because if the business is non-responsive to the degree that we can't even judge whether they are moving forward or not, then we have that opportunity to non-renew, which is different from kicking them out of the program. So we kind of have the double opportunity. We can kick folks out if kick folks out is a bad term, but well, anyway, we can remove folks from the program if they're not being good players in the spirit of the program, but we also have the opportunity to non-renew if they're just not participating or not responsive. So it seems like that's enough avenues and that it follows established HRC process.
Yeah, I like that because that gives us an immediate response if something is just like so awful that we need to move quickly. But there's still a built-in opportunity for change if we feel that, the company has some kind of motivation to have corrective action, right? Like, because I don't like just cutting someone out for something, but there are extreme things where that would be necessary, whereas something that's not as extreme or not as impactful, we might be able to have a little bit of time to process through that with them and then make a decision if we have to or not. So I like that setup.
I agree.
Do you want me to edit the document to reflect this conversation?
Yeah, that might be really helpful, Gretchen, because you know the process so well and you could get it in the right words.
I don't want to jump ahead of you, but one question I had about the project was how to build the resource packet. I found myself thinking about different approaches, but I don't want to jump ahead. But when you get to that point, I had a few thoughts about that.
I feel ready to talk about that. How about you all? Yeah. That's kind of the most exciting part to me is the packet, any training we might do, that kind of thing. And it feels like there's a lot of opportunity there.
I know. And I think a lot of us have some pretty good information that I think could load in. I found myself wondering if brainstorming almost a content list made sense. There's a couple of approaches. There's brainstorm the content list and then everybody share all the stuff they have that they think would fit in, and we could start assimilating and organizing into something. It also would make a really cool internship project if there was an intern that wanted to like build and go. That occurred to me because it's kind of a neat project. So I just wasn't sure. I don't know if there's a member of the commission or this task force that wants to take it and run with it as a project. But yeah, I was just wondering about that part.
Well, one thing that is super handy is that I'm on another committee with the NAACP, the Race Relations Committee, and that's exactly what we're working on right now is compiling a list of resources. Now, these are obviously specifically to fight racism, so we need to expand that. And a lot of it is books and stuff, and I think we're looking for more like training. But I could send that over as a starting point, and then someone can either run with it. I don't have time to do that, but someone could run with it, or we could have an intern add in the other intersectional pieces that we want there. Obviously, LGBTQ being a huge one, but I'm sure there's more.
I was trying to think of stuff that is going to come up, like because you think about a retail or a business environment. And so like we have a document about interrupting oppression or interrupting microaggressions. I could see how that would be helpful because some of it's the day-to-day interactions that people have with each other.
Mm-hmm.
There might be something about physical, maybe there's a resource about the physical environment and how does your artwork and materials communicate representation. You know, like you start thinking about all the components that are going to show up in these kinds of spaces, pronouns, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking we could use Chocaricos pronoun write-up.
Yeah.
That's a really good resource.
And like something about accessibility, you know, beyond just ADA, because ADA law is great. However, it doesn't always give the full accessibility that a person might need. So what is your policy for accommodating a request? And like, here are some resources if there's requests you don't know how to accommodate, you know, here's some resources to do that, if that comes up too.
I think including chapter 97 would be really a good idea. And I can't, it's been a while since I read chapter 97, but I don't know if a lot of it is in really plain language, but maybe even a little kind of a plain language primer on chapter 97 might be helpful. Because I know when you get into laws and policies, the words can get pretty big pretty fast. And we want the material to be accessible to all types of folks in businesses, as well as if they're sharing with their, not just the owner, but if they're sharing with their employees, and the employees could be from a wide variety of backgrounds. So plain language resources would be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that can go for state and federal law too.
Yeah.
Couldn't it? You know, maybe it's not like necessarily part of a class, but you have a suggested reading or appendix.
Yeah. I was going to ask if our lawyer might have some resources on that, like what does this mean for your employees kind of thing, kind of like both of you are saying, like additional reading, so that if they look at something that are like, okay, but what does that mean? They could dive into that deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I'll do a little homework on that.
One of the most important things that's in the list, in our list for the project, is about reporting hate and bias crimes. And we have, I think, some of that language in our brochures for HRC that could be pulled out and put into the packet.
Yeah, and actually additional resources like Bureau of Labor and Industries is also an enforcer. I mean, they're kind of an escalated case, but if something awful really were to happen and we weren't able to help, or the person didn't want police involved, that would be another option as far as like, especially if it was an employee who was impacted, right? Like that might be another thing to consider too.
Yeah, I like that.
What about
maybe even
Brian, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, so sorry. And you know, maybe in a way, like I'm not sure if we've already covered this, but some type of like gender, sexuality, and protected class 101 type document, like something pretty basic and cohesive about like what it means to be trans. What it means to like what are pronouns, which of course ties you nicely in with Chocaricos guide on pronouns, but because there's
little terminology things like the difference between preference and orientation would go a long way, and just provide a little.
Absolutely. And I think, because I think what a lot of us find is out in the community, a lot of, not to say it addresses all microaggressions or incidents in the community, but a lot of hassle, I think, is addressed if folks have the language and understanding and hopefully knowledge they need to know what questions not to ask, or the correct terms.
Yeah, I agree with that, because a lot of things that would be incredibly obvious to everyone in this group, but maybe not so much to people who haven't had a lot of interaction with the queer community, especially the trans community.
There's a document that Commissioner Paul Faudre wrote a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago now. And I feel like he titled it Basic Sexuality and Gender Terms. And I wonder if you don't mind, I might just send it to you and see if that's responsive to the conversation. Because he
That
wrote that
sounds
as a
right,
resource
yeah.
to the commission at one point.
I think I vaguely remember this, but
You probably do, Barbara. Yeah.
yeah, feel free to send, because this might
Okay.
be maybe even
Yeah.
we just use
Yeah.
this
Maybe, yeah.
together. And
Yeah. What about, there was a conversation, oh, Mike, you go ahead.
Oh, it made me think of the glossary of terms that Dr. Brown put together with Echo for the equity lens. Is there anything in there that we might want to consider including? I only vaguely remember the document, but
The equity lens document.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
isn't there a glossary of terms?
yes, there is. We aren't going to include that in our initial proposal because that's still a work in progress. But once that's wrapped up, we can absolutely include that.
Okay, cool.
And then the other thing is, I think I have a resource at work that's specifically about trans rights in the workplace. So I'm gonna send myself an email. I think it was like, what's the campaign that's like a equal sign?
Human Rights Campaign.
Yes, that one. Thank you. They had a really good website about like how to support trans folks in the workplace, which I think you could just blatantly say like, do the same stuff for your trans customers. And then there's some good resources at Basic Rights Oregon too. And they also have training. So that would be both a reading resource and a like, if a company got their first trans employee and needed support, that would be a thing. So I'll email that to you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Kind of looking at, oh, go ahead, Gretchen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Some of you had talked about, and I've received complaints about profiling when you're a customer in a business. And I'm wondering if anyone has anything on that, like helping employees helping employees become conscious of their unconscious bias, and so that no matter who you are when you walk into the store or the establishment, you're treated equitably. And I don't know if we have anything along those lines that would address that need.
I don't, but I'm sure someone has put something together.
I was reflecting that Tricarico's got a good list of anti-racism resources to start us. And with all of us on this committee being in the queer community, we kind of have a good list of queer resources. I wonder about accessibility and whether there's an organization or community to reach out to for those types of resources, or even one of our fellow commissioners.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Krista would know some resources. And also Rain, who's come to speak. He's a, I think, disability or accessibility coordinator in his line of work.
Mm-hmm.
So might have some additional resources we could reach out and ask.
I'd be happy to email both of them if you'd like me to. We'd been talking about putting something like that together a while back.
Yeah, I think that was, I mean, that was one of the areas that we put in the pledge document, was around making sure the business is accessible. And I think giving the business owner a really concrete idea of what that means would really help.
I wonder if we could organize some of these things to have like a focus each month of the year, because something I'm thinking about, like if I'm a business owner and I've been dealing with who knows what the last year, and we come along like, hey, let's do all this stuff. I honestly, I would probably be like, yeah, sure, and stick it on a shelf and never look at it again. So I'm wondering if we could try to have some sort of engagement plan with the folks that choose to do this. So we can say, hey, this month we're going to talk about accessibility. This month it's Pride Month. We're going to talk about queer inclusion, like to kind of keep it an ongoing thing instead of a like one and done kind of thing.
Yeah, I worry about 100-page packet for sure.
I mean, I think we should still have it and still give it, but
Yeah.
like
In
be able
doses.
to reference that. Yeah. And be able to work with them on it. Which kind of reinforces our overall thing of just building relationships and building community with these business owners.
That might be an idea for the awareness task force's annual plan for emails. I know the audience in that case is community partners, but it might be a nice small component to put in like information. I don't know. That could be something the awareness team thinks about. Like if we had a short piece about, here are thoughts about how to do this well in a resource. Maybe our fellow partner organizations would also be interested or something. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if that aligns with our like update emails that we're doing anyway, then people can start asking about, oh, well, what is this? Oh, well, it's part of the Safe Spaces program, so they can kind of like cross-pollinate each other of getting people interested and involved.
Yeah, I like the idea for the awareness task force to think about having kind of an engagement plan like that, and then you maybe have these core pieces of content that you want to get out, but then you adapt them to each audience. So you could adapt that same content to the business owners for Safe Spaces project and write little pieces that go to their point of view. And then send the same information to our community partners, but more directed at some of their interests and needs. So I really like that idea. And we, on the awareness task force, have been wanting to move that way anyway. So this kind of pushes us a little bit.
Hey, lucky for us, there's some members of the awareness task force in this meeting.
It's true.
Okay.
What about, is there any kind of, for participating in this program, is there any kind of in-person training that we want to work toward? Do we want to ask the business owner or their employees to, I don't know, engage with a trainer? Do we like the fee model that the Center 50 Plus had, which would kind of pay for that kind of engagement? What do you all think?
Able to establish, the fee system, then it'd be nice to see. And I'd agree with the notion of having, maybe a like coordinator or contractor come in once a month to do rotating classes of some sorts.
Yeah, I really like that too. And I really like the idea of being able to pay that expert. Oftentimes those are folks from marginalized communities. So it's really important that we pay them. And that can be one of the things that we pitch of like, hey, this is an ongoing investment in the safe space and you're going to get something back from that, right? Because if we can have one or two members from each of these businesses pulling together for a presentation, would probably cost less than if they had each of these businesses hired this person. So it's kind of a pooling of resources to get that training rather than expecting them to pay, because consultant prices can be really expensive, especially for a small business. But that would be a way to make it accessible and affordable.
I mean, there's a lot of interest for diversity and inclusion consulting. And if we're offering, a level of training that's at least somewhat comparable to what you receive from consultant, then that's a major incentive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we're like looking to create that win-win for the business and the community.
Exactly.
The business gets that opportunity to get a high-value consultant.
And marketing support.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of good opportunities for that.
Sounds like such a great deal. Like I would totally sign up.
If I had a business, right? I mean, I would love to put one of the decal stickers in my front window, but I don't think that's the point. To have it at my house.
Right.
True.
That is something else, is thinking about how to get that decal off the ground. I know the Human Rights Commission's talked about a possible outreach to the Salem Public Arts Commission. That might be a way to initiate, or if you had other ideas on how to initiate that. But you had some fun ideas about rotating the designs.
Yeah, I think when we started talking about having it be on a renewal, that it made sense for the artwork to kind of change at each renewal cycle. I think it also makes sense for the reason of when we talk about diversity and inclusion, more is more in terms of including different communities, and you can't fit all of that into one decal. So the decals could, sort of over time represent a great many communities. So yeah, that was a really intriguing idea, and I do really still like that a lot.
Which would be another incentive for it being a paid program, so we can pay the artists for the decals.
Yeah, that's really important. That's really important.
I could see the program maybe needing seed money, but then hoping that the fees would help sustain it, in years 2 and forward. But maybe some initial funds to pay an artist and to get the initial, concept off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what else should we touch on tonight for our program?
Can't think of anything myself. How about Tricarica? Do you have anything?
No, I'm looking through our materials and I don't see anything.
So to kind of summarize, we kind of have addressed what the complaint process would look like. We like the idea of it being fee-based to demonstrate commitment, provide training, pay decal artists. We kind of made a good brainstorm list of resource packet ideas and talked about those packet ideas maybe not getting all just shoved into a packet, but being built with an engagement plan. That seems like a pretty a pretty good amount of decisions that we made
Yeah, that's a lot.
in a mere 40 minutes. Not too bad. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to talk about tonight either. I think that the next steps will become really clear as we start to gather these resources. And the issue, the question of seed money, Gretchen, how do we as a task force raise that, or do we push that forward to the commission to kind of make a formal request when we're a little bit further along?
Yeah, I guess we could think about, it probably depends on the size and the scope of it. If, I guess how much, so I guess we could work out a little expense budget and then see what it looks like. Like how much money would be appropriate to pay the artist? That might be a good question for all of you and the Salem Public Arts Commission, and that gives us a sense. Merely printing the decals is likely to fit within the current mayor and city council budget. So I think I could just print decals pretty easily. The resources we're talking about collecting wouldn't cost anything. The training would. So thinking about what do we want the training to look like, and maybe doing a request for information with possible contractors to get a sense of budget, could. And then we could include, you're all also building a request to city council that, and I know HRC funding has been part of that, so it could be infused in that. There may also be partnerships out there. This might be right up the alley of a funder that is in our community that we could take a peek at. So I guess there's a couple of thoughts running through my head about that. Maybe there's a sponsor, an entity that wants to sponsor this, that's just all over this idea and would like to sponsor the first, like if we think our first year expenses are, let's say $3,000, maybe there's a sponsor that wants to launch the project,
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
I could see Basic Rights Oregon getting into it. I could see the possibly even like the World Beat folks getting into it. There's a lot of organizations who could be invested and or involved on multiple levels.
I'd love to see the business community take some ownership. I don't know in particular about our particular Chamber of Commerce in the city and where they would stand on something like this, but there are other types of organizations that are business networking or business support. I like the idea of business support for this because we're really asking businesses to participate in a big way. So that could be an avenue as well. There's also Portland Area Business Association, which is the LGBTQIA business group up there. I don't think we have an equivalent here, but maybe it's time to start one.
Yeah. And maybe like, I think Capital Pride is focused on their own fundraising issues, but that's not to say we couldn't partner with them. Yeah. But yeah,
so maybe that's something to be thinking about, is like, what would an expense budget look like? Folks could be thinking about what could go into those.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good hidden things that we can talk about at our next meeting and be thinking about, and kind of see at that time where we're at with the collecting of resources. And
yeah, that's good.
Cool. I think that's our only agenda item tonight. Do you have any member remarks and announcements? All right, well, seeing none, I think we can take a quick break before our awareness meeting, Byron. It was good to see you tonight.
Yeah, it's good seeing y'all too.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next steps with this.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome.
Over and out.
Thank you.